Hey, what's up, everyone? This is Jeremy, founder of QuickMail.io.
And this is Omar with ZenMaid. And today we are going to be answering two questions that I heard on a talk on YouTube recently that I thought were interesting. So I posed them to Jeremy briefly before we hit the record button, and we thought that they'd be good to answer. So should I just say what both questions are, or should I just go into number one and we'll just talk about that? Does it matter? Okay,
By
the
all means.
two questions. Well, we're going to talk about one at a time. So the first one is, if we were to 10x our price on QuickMail and ZenMaid, what would we deliver? So what sort of value would we be looking for customers to receive if our price was 10 times where it was? So I think for both of us, that'd be in like the couple $100 range. For me, that'd be like $800 a month, which interestingly, some of my competitors do charge like in that range. And they are not better than us. And then the other thing is, what would happen if you were to cut your price, or not cut your price,
If you had to, right?
Yeah, if you had to deliver your product for 1/10 the price that you do now, how would that like change things? How would that change like your strategy? How would you do it essentially? And so as I was explaining to Jeremy briefly before hitting the record button, is both these questions are really great little thought experiments to see if you can pull out ideas on how to maybe like lower your costs or how to like increase your revenue and stuff like that. So I don't think either of us is interested in doing either of these things, but
you're going to receive emails asking you like, hey, can I get the deal I heard on the podcast, like the 1/10? Sounds awesome. I don't need anything else.
Yeah.
I'm not sure people will ask for the 10x the prices. Although it could be interesting. Yeah, like we were briefly talking, I like the 10x the price means we provide more value. When the 10th of the price means we find optimization one way or another, right? So
yeah,
in one is like it's a thought experiment in reducing your margin or like keeping, having like a healthy margin. The other one is an experiment is how do you actually capture more value, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's an interesting one for sure.
And what I was saying to Emma is at some point in time during QuickMail is that we had like some new entrants in the market, and one of their best, I would say, weapon or strategy in order to penetrate the market is to offer like very low prices for maybe 60% or 80% of the solution of competitors or incumbents, right? That's a typical strategy. Whether you actually want to do that and then capture the entire market, like if we were like to offer QuickMail, I don't know, for like $1 a month, it'd be like an absolute no-brainer for anyone open on the market, right? But
well,
would I want
one
to do
thing
that?
is but again, like the question isn't would you want to do that, right? Because we both know like you wouldn't, right? Well, no, what I'm serious, right? Sure. Because there's no point.
But
like,
if you had to,
yeah, like. Yeah, so if you had to, the question is like, what would you do? But one thing that I do also think that people take for granted is like, even if you were to make QuickMail 100% free, you wouldn't win the entire market. Like no one ever wins the entire market, right? And so that's like another thing that people don't like take into account is like, no, like most people, like the entire market doesn't care that you're like $10 less than other softwares when you're talking about, 19, 29, 39 a month,
sure.
Right? But it does affect kind of like the competitive landscape, right? So that like that thing that people can come in for 1/10 of the price, offer 80%, and that's how people get their foot in the door. That's why ZenMaid released our free plan, right? Is we wanted to take away that option for anyone new to come in and do that. We're like, no, we're going to put something in between. So now, like, if you can find that little like window of value to get your foot in the door into this industry, like go for it. But if you can't, then we're going to be like even bigger juggernauts in like a couple of years.
Look, you got HubSpot free. Free CRM. Well, actually, it's not that free. I think at some point they have like a different plan. But the point is that Pipedrive still works, right? And Pipedrive still has customers.
Exactly.
So
yeah. Okay. I mean, like I might look at HubSpot, but I wouldn't care just because HubSpot's free. That doesn't mean that they're going to be the one that I'm going to use. Because the other thing is that we all know that like free isn't free. Like it's free until it's not. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to trap you in. So if I know that Pipedrive is $9 a month from the beginning, I would rather do that than take HubSpot for free, knowing that at some point it's going to go to 49 a month, right? And so that's like another thing is that, unless it's truly free forever, people will take into account the price, even if they're choosing the free plan.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Okay, so if you had to, let's say, your whole landscape, the whole competition, slash their price by, 10, right? So you had to offer the same service for 1/10. What would you do?
Well, so the main thing is I think you'd have to go like a lot more automated, right? That I think that if you were to cut like your prices by 10, you couldn't invest the same amount of money per customer into customer support, into onboarding, and into all of that stuff. So like for ZenMaid, we'd probably cut like a large portion of our team. We'd probably bring it down to well, the other thing is like, so the immediate thing is we'd probably cut the marketing team. And like, that's just because if you drop the price by like a 10. So
it's very fair. Yeah. Like a free plan. Well, I mean, people offer free plan to have a marketing component to it, right?
Yeah. Well, but one thing though is because I think the way you just asked, I think actually changed the question. So I think we should go back to the original question.
All right.
I mean, consulting is like, well, no, because it's a very different question if you say everyone dropped their prices by 90%. So what are you going to do now, right? Versus just you have to drop your prices by 90%, right? Because to me, I would fire the entire marketing team, because if ZenMaid was like almost completely free or was like $9 a month, word that would be your competitive, would be all the marketing we need. Yeah. Exactly. That would be part of the competitive advantage. So like I would probably let the marketing team go. I'd probably let a large portion of the success team go, of like sales and support. And that would just be because at $9 a month, people can't really expect to get like support. So I would probably do that, which would cut our expenses pretty significantly. And so like, I would think we could probably cut our expenses at least in half, if not by more. And then the question is just, could we get 3 to 4 to 5 times more customers at a lower price point? So we end up at like a similar amount of revenue with like a bigger margin or whatever. You know what I mean?
I do. That's a fair point. I was thinking I probably will have to do the same, like regarding marketing, because now, now that cost is, they will need to deliver tremendous results in order to pay for themselves if the price was only, $6 a month or whatever. So that's a very fair assessment. It's very interesting that as a business running, usually salaries are the biggest expenses. So that's the sort of like easier level when it comes to, changing profitability in that sense, which explains why, when there is a crisis, people, CEO just come in and the first thing they do is they lay off, a lot of people, which, kind of makes sense, although it sucks. The other thing about support is fine. This is not a massive cost to the business, but I suspect, and that's unfortunate consequences of slashing prices, is that you acquire different type of customers that are way more whingy, way more like, tell me very true, and so on. And so the more the price, the less, or like the more you slash the price, the higher, the volume of support, and the quality of those questions becomes like, horrible. So that's something we've been not necessarily battling with, but offering the free auto warmer plan actually did come with a significant increase in support tickets that are not necessarily high value tickets, right? It's like, hey, I can't get my unknown provider email, like, yahoo.com or whatever, to actually, integrate well and warm up. It's like, first of all, you don't need to warm that one up. And then the second of all is like, get a proper inbox if you want to do call outreach in the future. Like, don't, so there's a lot of education that needs to happen that doesn't necessarily need to happen when, people commit to $49 a month or stuff like that. That, I think, will be the hardest thing. So it could be that we have to slash all the price. I mean, because we just would include, an extra tier plan where there is support, and the other one, I'm sorry, there is no support on this one. Like you mentioned, a lot of automation will have to come.
Yeah, exactly. Knowledge based only, no access to the support team, etc.
If you think about it, we don't offer like phone support. I mean, of course, sometimes we do jump on a call, and stuff like that, but we don't offer phone support because our prices is so low. So, if we were like 10x the price, like, getting the other, finger on, maybe we'll offer like, live phone support, those sort of things as well that will come. Actually, that's an easy way to margin into the prices, like the actual support, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Coding will become difficult as well, like for the because code is usually generally development is a big part of the budget in a company.
Well,
So
because
you
keep in
need to
mind that you're
pay
just
them
talking
to
about
do a lot
cutting
of
your
automation.
price. Like you're just cutting the price. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily cutting like your total revenue like by 10. But yeah, like I would
True.
actually think that the development would be even more important, right? Because
Exactly.
essentially the product at $9 a month, the product has to sell itself, right? So like to me, I would actually think that if we dropped our prices by that amount, I would actually think that ZenMaid would go much more development heavy, and that because we're able to charge what we are, we're much more sales and like in marketing heavy. But
Makes
one
sense.
thing that I'm realizing is, yeah, we don't really have like the best leverage here, right? That honestly, we should be doing this in something that just has higher leverage, or we could be selling something for like $500 a month and would require the same amount of sales and like in marketing effort. But it is what it is.
Yeah, and I'm thinking the thing that will definitely suffer, I think for me, assuming there's also a loss of revenue, associated to it, is definitely the R&D type of thing. But you're absolutely right. When it comes to development itself, they would probably prioritize a lot of automation, one way or another. All right, so slashing prices is a no-go for both of us. Sorry, listeners, if you're a customer of either Amar or myself. Let's look at, increasing the price by 10x. What would you actually change? What would be one of the first things you will change or have to change?
So adding in phone support, like what you said, right now we don't offer phone support like either. We would, if we 10x the price, we could immediately provide 24/7 like phone support and just like on call, like screen share, like type setups and things like that. Let's see. I mean, honestly, if we were to charge 10x the price, the way that I think that we would deliver most of the additional value would be more like agency consultancy sort of coaching focused, right? It's like if we charge 10x the price, I would probably have like hired 5 to 10 maid service experts, like current coaches or consultants in the industry, that I would have hired to be like full-time coaches for ZenMaid to jump on calls like with customers and to help people sort of break through like plateaus and continue growing and like in all of like that stuff. Because at that point, it's like if instead of getting $9 an employee, we got $90 an employee for every time someone grew, like, the amount of effort that we would put into our content marketing would be on a completely other level, right? So some things would change about like the service and stuff. I'm sure we'd put more money into product, but I feel like we're already doing like things as fast as we can, so they would just get faster. They wouldn't change anything significantly on product development.
Interesting. Yeah, I tend to agree with you. We'll probably have the luxury of having like a account executive or something like that, like someone dedicated to a few accounts at least, maybe not just one account at 10x. That wouldn't be enough. But consultancy is definitely the easiest road for us. Like we help you, getting your campaign,
done for you.
Like, Brett with his optimizer, stuff that it's one of our friends that has his own business, who offers some sort of like higher plan for sort of like optimization of your own campaigns and stuff like that. So that could definitely be one road. Which basically will mean we'll need to scale the team, right? So you will scale the price with additional people. But there is another thing that you could also sort of like do is prioritization of your feature requests. So it could be effectively, maybe not 10x. 10x will not be enough. Like I wouldn't do it for $690 a month, but I will definitely do it for $1,000. So maybe 20x. Then I would probably offer something like you got a budget of points for feature you want to be developed, not necessarily on QuickMail. That could be a side of QuickMail, like, an integration specifically or stuff like that, that the agency could effectively request. And basically you get like a developer on demand for a certain amount of time per month to either do your integration into your full, workflow or to develop certain features of QuickMail if they are aligned with QuickMail and stuff like that. So that could definitely, we see more and more the sort of like pay as you go or subscription services for UX design and stuff and UI design, where you actually pay some fixed amount per month, and you allowed to one task a day or some stuff like that. Have you heard about those things?
Yeah. Like WP Curve for like WordPress. There's a lot of different examples of like similar services to that. Yeah, okay. So you're talking about really changing.
Yeah, that will be a completely different change, and that will be also a different type of market. I think it'll be more like closer to enterprise type of thing. But
okay, yeah. So yeah, that's true.
For probably not quite enterprise, it'd be more like a firm willing to do this sort of like own workflow and internal system, but
okay,
not
but
quite yet.
But I think it's more like think about like your current customers, because I think like the point of the question, like that is interesting to kind of go down like that road. But I think the point of like particularly this question is like, what additional value would you deliver to your current customers if you were charging 10 times the price? Not like what would happen in the long run with how the market would change and all of that. Like the idea is to maybe come up with something and go, oh, actually, I would provide that if I was charging 10 times the price. But wait a minute, like that doesn't actually cost us anything to deliver, right? That's kind of my question. Is so like if I was a QuickMail user and I was paying you $690 like a month, what do you think that you and like your current team?
I can do that, and we already did that in the past. We had a different plan for $890 a month, where we basically go in and actually help you optimize your campaign and actually just help you changing stuff and so on. But that's not a road I want to go, because I will have to scale with people, and I don't want to scale with people.
Yeah. So, okay. So
that's one of the things.
But again,
in fact, I had one customer, and as soon as I got it, I removed the plan. There was this sort of like thing, like people choose the plan in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I had like, I don't know, 29, 69, and then 800.
What else would you do though? Like in addition to that, because again, like the point of the question is not would you do this, right? Like we both know we wouldn't.
Well, I don't know. You're asking.
Price. So like
this is a funny thing, Amar. You're asking someone who's been consistently adding more and more value for 5 years without increasing the prices.
That's how I kind of feel about ZenMaid as well, right? But I think that's why it's like a 10x thing, right? Because it's only 10% more. If it's 10% more, then that's like a little bit like different. But it's like, think about if it was $700 a month for like cold email software, or like working with a company with QuickMail. I think the agency thing that you were saying kind of answers it, of like him.
Yeah, exactly. That's point one, because point two is we do have, since the new version, which is like 2 years old already, we do have a way of growing with the value of the customer. So now as they add more inboxes, they do deliver more value, or they actually do pay more because we bring more value. So we did enable the ability of the account to grow and scale. So now we have like more like land and expand type of strategy. Where before we just had like a land, strategy kind of thing. So I think we did manage to grow with the value we provide to the customer, but like 10x that will effectively have to be like manual and human, I don't think.
Well, what about so like if I had 100 emails that I was gonna like try to send through QuickMail, because I know you guys have really good deliverability, right? So like if you tried to send out like 100 emails, and let's say that like 30 of them don't get through for one reason or another, I assume that QuickMail takes but I assume that QuickMail takes another pass and tries to send them again, and unless there's some sort of hard bounce or something along those lines, it'll try like a couple of times before kind of like giving up on the email. Is that like about right from a technical perspective, or is that
kind of? But the question to you is like, even if this wasn't, and then we provide that's definitely not a 10x value, right?
Well, but the whole thing is the 10x value might be like, look, like, we'll try to send these emails like 10 times or 20 times or as many times like as it like takes. And that's another one where it's okay, because we make 10 times as much per customer, we can do some sort of like guarantee of like, we guarantee we will have the best deliverability because we try more than anyone else.
We do have the best deliverability,
fund your money.
But usually you get good deliverability by not retrying when you got bounces. But No, this is tricky because when I actually
Yeah.
started the prices at the very beginning, and that may be a tangent, so you have to stop me at some point
Mm.
probably. But when we actually started, I actually based the prices on the actual cost of the business, which is, I believe, typical for anyone starting a business, not the actual value that you provide. Which means, if someone say, "Hey, you're just sending emails," at the end, it's like, okay, it's complicated for emails, but you see what I mean? It's like, oh, this is just a resource that takes like, um, just $100 to do and something, and you're charging me like $500, right? This is actually the value added, like, well, but it adds certain value to your business, so it doesn't matter how it's done, type of thing. But of course, more people come into the market, and then you do have a tendency of the price aligning more to the actual cost of the solution itself, right? Like that's kind of like normal. And
Over
I lost
time,
my
yeah.
train of thoughts here, but at the beginning I was effectively charging like that,
Yep.
and so it's hard for me to think like, something that will justify from an, I have a technical background, so for me it's hard to justify like a technical solution that will be effectively like 10x what we're already providing. But of course, we should not think into actual development and delivery and solution, but actually in terms of value deliver, right? Which is
Yeah,
like
value,
a
exactly. It's
difficult,
10x value.
exactly,
Yeah.
gap to do.
Yeah,
I think
it's
it'll
not.
have to be a sort
Yeah.
of like unique solution to the market, something that is probably not yet present, and then you can effectively extract a lot of things if it provides a lot of value,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Do you have any competitors that charge 10x?
Good question. I mean, for the last 5 years, competitors been like charging up and up. We were one of the most expensive one, and now we become one of the most affording one, which is like mind blowing to me.
Mm.
But no, some are charging $100 or 120 a month. I think they can do that because they have dialer call integrated. And so
Mm.
it switched to a different market than we have actually, because
Yeah.
user doesn't really care. We did like a phone integration and no one gives a crap about it. So that was like bad. That was one of our mistakes, by the way. So yeah, it's hard to figure out because once we also cater to a certain market, then usually you double down on this market, right?
Mm. Yeah, makes sense.
So yeah, it's hard to think like, unless we have something, a sort of like unique solution, or we have human behind to sort of like do some unique value proposition, which is effectively, we can review your stuff ourselves, or we can, provide phone support 24/7. You got an assistant helping you with your campaign, whatever. It's hard to actually find off 10x, honestly. And I don't want to go any of those two
Gotcha.
roads. Well, of course, if we have something unique, that's great, but you need to find it. Maybe research and development, or customer research, whatever brings it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, I've thought about going backwards in price actually sometimes. Is like I have thought about just, I mean, it's more of a thought experiment more than anything, but like if we dropped our price to like the $20 range, or like the $10 to $20 range for the starting price of ZenMaid, then I think we would really, really like dominate the market. I think that it would be such a no-brainer to start off with ZenMaid when you were like when you were like smaller, that might end up like really winning us the market in the long run. But I think it would cost us a lot of money in the short
Yeah,
run.
it will cannibalize
And
a lot.
yeah, and might not work, right? And that's the thing, is that
That's
I'm like,
true.
I don't know that I'm in a position to take that sort of risk where I'm going to cannibalize the current money that we're making on the chance that it's going to make us a bunch more money like in the long run. It just doesn't seem like that's like a, maybe if I were to take funding, it's like, okay, like I'll use this to just like undercut the price and flood the market. But like other than that, I don't think there's any way.
But isn't that why, people in your position actually buy, newcomer or new starter in the industry, so they kind of like get like that, low price type of entry without jeopardizing their existing customer base?
Yeah, some people do that. I mean, it's good to own all those sides. I've definitely thought about that, right? There's not really anyone that's like kind of like behind us that I'd like to buy in ZenMaid, although we have tried in the past. But there is one software that's ahead of us that does charge like 5 to 10 times like more than us, that I think that we're like a better company and like have our have everything together. And I think that we'll have the opportunity to buy them in the future, and then we'll get kind of the medium tier, and then we own like the higher tier, so that across the industry, if people use software, then we come out ahead. So I don't know, it's interesting.
Yeah, so stay tuned for episode 100 when Amar will explain us how he actually bought this company and what was the thought process and so on.
Yeah. I've tried to buy a couple companies. I tried to buy a few in our industry. So we can talk about that in another episode.
That's right. All right. So stay tuned if you want to hear more about us. We're on Twitter. It's just Amar, all one word, and Jay Chatelain.
Yeah, let us know what you want to hear about, because we've got more episodes to record, more discussions to run through. So if there's anything that you want to hear us debate or fight about or insult each other over, just drop it in Twitter.
We only insult off camera. All right. All right. Thanks, Amar.
Cool.